Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Ah, Smart Water, now in a sleek can.
This feels cool, literally.
Perfect for social gatherings and on the go.
Should I start wearing turtlenecks?
One sip at a time, friend. Smart Water cans, for those with a taste for taste. Get yours today.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. You're joining the Roger Stone Show. Joining me now is Dr. Garo Armen. He's the chairman and chief executive officer of Agenus Inc. Under his leadership, that company has been making breakthroughs in scientific technologies and immunotherapy products. He received his PhD in physical chemistry from the City University in New York. And our topic today is whether the medical community and Big Pharma are suppressing therapies and drugs and natural supplements that could be helpful in curing cancer. I can only speak to my own experience. We're going to get into that in a second, but Dr. Armen, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you very much, Roger. It's a pleasure to be here.
When, I think those who've listened to the show know this, when my wife was diagnosed with aggressive stage 4 cancer, specifically non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, the doctors suggested a regimen of chemotherapy followed by radiation. I objected to this because my wife was suffering from arthritis, and therefore she was treating that quite successfully with progesterone. Progesterone and radiation are contraindicated. They could be very dangerous together. Led me to wonder whether the doctors had even looked at her medical records, or whether this was just their cookie-cutter formula for cancer. Now, ultimately, she chose a regimen that included a drug called fenbendazole, vitamin E, curcumin, CBD oil, intravenous infusions of vitamin C, injections of vitamin D, and I'll probably mispronounce this, glutathione, which is widely available. And I attribute her miraculous recovery and the fact that now, almost 4 years later, she remains cancer-free to the fact that she chose this regimen. This leads me to believe that Big Pharma and those in the medical complex know that there are drugs as well as natural supplements that could help in the cure of cancer. You yourself and your company have developed one such drug. Talk to us about the situation.
Thank you. There is a lot of truth to what you're saying. Of course, there are good doctors and not so good doctors that don't do their homework before they decide on a treatment regimen. But in reality, if you look at the last 5 decades, the estimated costs to get us to here in terms of cancer research, that includes discovery of new molecules as well as clinical trials, is estimated to be at $1 trillion over 5 decades. So if you look at the reality of where we are today, having spent $1 trillion, we still don't have cures for cancer, at least for some of the most challenging cancers, we don't. And as you said, chemotherapy and radiation, which are quite poisonous to the system, are still the standards. Now, to change that, in the last 10 years or so, there has been a resurgence of natural remedies. When I say natural remedies, these are still drugs, but they work through the natural immune system. And one of the areas of great success in the last 10 years have been with those drugs. So To your question specifically, is there a concerted effort to suppress positive developments? Probably not, to give the benefit of the doubt to the industry and regulators, but the realities still are such that we are way behind.
So why is the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, moving at a 1990s pace when we're living in this AI-powered age of medicine?
So I am a big fan of AI, as you may know, and AI, I think, while it's not perfect, it is going to change all of this and catapult the speed with which we develop drugs and we test them and get them approved. But if you look at still today, it takes on average about 5 years from the first injection or pill given to the patient to drug approval where the drug is made widely available. And clearly, the FDA has evolved over time, I'd say, but still, I think the rules and regulations have not caught up to the innovation that the field is experiencing right now.
Look, I should say I'm not a medical doctor, and nothing I say in this conversation should be construed as medical advice. I'm merely telling you the experience that my wife and I have had personally, but also the testimony of literally thousands of people who contacted us when I went on radio and talked about my wife's situation. The number of people who contacted me through email, through text messages, people would just write Roger Stone, the name of the city I live in, and the zip code, and it would reach me, all of them telling me positive stories about fenbendazole, which was actually a drug that began, I believe, as a dog dewormer, just as ivermectin was a horse dewormer. And all of those thousands of people cannot possibly be lying, nor can they be wrong. Doctor, tell us about the therapies that you have developed and your experience so far with the FDA.
Certainly. If you look at the major advances, when, for example, Commissioner McCary talks about going after cures rather than marginal treatments, if we look at what are the curative treatments for patients today, I think it's reasonable to assume that activating the immune system to target the cancer specifically is the way to go long term, because cancer is a very complicated disease. It's different from person to person. We classify cancers by the organ in which they are present. For example, we say lung cancer, but it is a fact that no two lung cancers are exactly alike. So in order for us to be able to target these nasty cells in the body in a very, very precise manner, we must be able to activate the immune system so that what we infuse or inject into the body allows the immune system to be programmed to recognize its own target in a very specific way. So our drugs are activators of the immune system, and we call them second or third generation activators of the immune system because the first generations were CTLA-4 antibodies that were discovered in the 2000s, and then finally they made it to patients in 2011. And PD-1 antibodies that started getting to patients in 2015-16 timeframe. These were the first-generation compounds, and the first-generation compounds did not really do a good job in activating what we call cold cancers. For example, colon cancer is a cold cancer, whereas melanoma is a hot cancer. The difference between the two is that cold cancers are relatively invisible to the immune system, whereas hot cancers are much more visible. So getting back to your question, our agents are specifically designed, and we have demonstrated that in clinical trials of over 1,000 patients, they go after cold and hot cancers. And by making cold cancers hot, they make them much more visible to the immune system. So those are what we are pursuing right now as our next generation of compounds. And there's a whole pipeline behind that as well.
We'll be back with Dr. Garo Armen, but up next, keeping the live in alive with Debbie Nigro, sponsored by Native Path Collagen.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's Roger Stone.
In these turbulent economic times, with the Federal Reserve insisting that they answer to no one and continuing to print money like it's going out of tomorrow, with national debt in the trillions and clearly unsustainable, with hundreds of lawsuits trying to stop Elon Musk, who's ferreted out not millions, not billions, but trillions in waste, fraud, and corruption, now is the time to protect your future and do so with the strength of gold. Now is the time to acquire precious metals like gold and silver. You can convert your IRA or your 401k or some of your cash savings, and you can do it tax-free by acquiring gold and precious metals. The folks I trust are the folks at the Colonial Metals Group. You can reach them at colonialmetalsgroup.com/stone, or if you have questions, go to freegoldguide.com, and you'll be glad you did.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
This episode is brought to you by Chevrolet. Chevy certified service technicians are factory trained to fit your vehicle with the tires specifically developed for it. And with our tire price match guarantee, you get the best fit for the best deal. Let us do the work. Available on select eligible tire brands at participating dealers only. Offer ends 12/31/2025. Terms apply. See dealer for complete details. Visit Chevrolet.com/service to learn more.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. It's the Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Networks. We're talking to Dr. Garo Armen. He is the chairman and chief executive officer of Agenus Inc. He is also a respected PhD. Received his PhD in physical chemistry from the City University in New York. I had lunch with him, I think, about a week ago, maybe now. One of the smartest guys I've ever met. Thanks for joining us today on the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you very much, Roger. It's always a pleasure.
So colorectal cancer used to be a disease of seniors. Now it's exploding in those who are in their 30s and 40s. Doctor, what's going on here, and why aren't we panicking?
You said this spot on, Roger, because all of a sudden, colorectal cancer has become the number one killer of men under the age of 50. And not only that, but in the context of our product development with BOT/BAL, we get inquiries for compassionate use. And about 6 months ago, sadly, we got a compassionate use request for an 8-year-old little girl with advanced metastatic colorectal cancer. Never heard of that before. And because of red tape and bureaucracy, it's sad to say that regulatory process prohibited us to treat this girl under compassionate use, which is absolutely heartbreaking.
Absolutely incredible is what it is. So if immuno-oncology, which is really what you're advocating, is the future, why are young cancer patients still being steered to the 40-year-old regimen of chemotherapy and radiation, which in many cases seems to me to do more damage than good? I mean, if you survive it, you could survive, but there's a high probability that you won't survive it. Even when they recommended it to my own wife, they told her chances of success and survival, the percentage-wise, was extremely low.
That's right. That's right. I mean, you're absolutely right. For example, in colorectal cancer, the most recent drug that was approved about a year ago is a drug that extends life by merely 2 months with no cures in sight. And the drug prior to that was approved is another drug that extended the life for, at that time, by 6 weeks, at a significant cost and quality of life to the patient. So all of these realities, I believe, are exactly the kind of crisis that the new leadership in Washington wants to stop. And that's what we need to do. And that's one of the reasons we need to work very rapidly with the regulatory agencies and sometimes overcome some of the hurdles that are being erected, which Commissioner McCary spoke about most recently. For example, he pointed out that for drugs that are being sold in other countries, we still require to go back to ground zero and do some animal tests, including, sadly, dogs like beagles and monkeys, which have no merit. So some of these bureaucracies, both in the preclinical setting, which means before a drug is taken to humans for testing, and in the post-clinical setting, these older, archaic rules need to be reformed. And that requires leadership who has the courage to do it. And that's what we're hoping for to progress into very rapidly.
Yeah, you just hit a very sore point with me. In the last Trump administration and early in this one, I worked voluntarily with the White Coat Lab Project to try to cut the funding for these inhumane and seemingly meritless scientific but barbaric experiments on dogs, on monkeys, on other primates. Yet I saw just last week that new funding has just been approved for these experiments. I'm going to have somebody, I think it is Justin Goodman from White Coat Lab Projects, back on the show to talk about this, because it is horrific and it needs to end. Doctor, you've treated more than 1,000 late-stage patients across 10 cancers. How many of them walked away tumor-free, and how long have they stayed that way? Okay.
So in our trials, Roger, approximately 20% of the patients that are near their deathbed are looking like they will live a normal life for an extended period of time. What does that mean? I'm talking about well over 2 years. As we follow these patients, we look at the survival tail. And when you look at that, at least 20% of the patients look like they're living a normal, healthy life without chronic treatment that is required. In other words, we administer these drugs for a limited period of time, typically several weeks to several months, and then beyond that, they're drug-free. Now, as you go to earlier stages of disease, we've done a handful of patients in what we call neoadjuvant setting. These are patients in late stage 3 disease, and these patients are showing complete eradication of their tumors at least 50% of the time or more, at least that. So what's remarkable is that when these patients get one injection of one of our drugs called botensilimab and two injections of the other drug, balstilimab, by the way, these are infusions, that's all they need. And within 7 to 8 weeks, their tumor is gone. And for those that have demonstrated complete disappearance of tumor within an 8-week period, some of the patients now are up to about 18 months, and none of them have recurred. So this is a very exciting outcome. The message being, the earlier we treat patients, the better the outcomes. And unfortunately, again, because of archaic rules, we generally are stuck with treating patients that are near death instead of treating earlier stage patients that are still very sick, but instead of treating them with the better drug options, we still generally treat them with chemotherapy and radiation, which in itself is inhumane as well.
Well, last June, the FDA slammed the door on the therapy you recommend, and we have to hope and pray that under the new leadership that the FDA will grant conditional approval so that you can begin helping and curing people. Let me thank Dr. Garo Armen for joining us today. Dr. Armen, if folks want to go online and read more about your company and what you're doing, where can they go?
They can go to the website that we have. It's agenusbio.com, agenusbio.com. And we have a fair amount of information there, including how patients can have access to our medicines through the compassionate use program.
Very good. I want to thank our guest, Dr. Garo Armen, for a lively discussion. The most important component in those fighting cancer is, of course, prayer. But I urge anybody to explore both Western medicine, but also alternative healing. I'm not a doctor. I only speak from my own experience with my beloved wife. Thanks for joining The Roger Stone Show.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.